Please welcome the panel on A New Era of Military Technology, moderated by senior columnist at Yahoo Finance, Rick Newman.
That was a great setup by Eric Schmidt, telling us what's happening in the real world of warfare and how unprepared we probably are here. So we're going to talk about some solutions here, I think, with some startups. We do not have Boeing here. We don't have Lockheed Martin. We don't have Northrop Grumman. We have some small companies who are probably doing things different from those big prime contractors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to let each of the panelists take a minute to describe their company and what they do, and then we'll talk more about some of the issues that Eric raised, which I think really set it up nicely. Jeff, why don't you go first? Jeff Cole is the CEO and co-founder of Hidden Level.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. So we're actually based in upstate New York, which is an epicenter for defense tech. By background, I come out of the defense and intelligence community, but Hidden Level, we focus on cutting-edge passive surveillance technology. So passive radar, electronic warfare, multifunction capability. We have a pretty unique business model. We sell hardware direct to DoD, but we also own an infrastructure of the technology in which we develop. And we provide subscriptions over the United States and other large areas, other cities. And we provide subscriptions to air surveillance data as a service and what we call spectral weather. And what does that mean? So we're giving a full 3D picture on everything from small drones, dark drones, drones that aren't emitting any RF or anything like that, to fighter jets, stratospheric balloons, fast-moving projectiles. And in spectral weather, that is the detection in 3D space of RF emitters, GPS jammers, cell phone towers, everything. Is very unique capability. The technology actually hadn't existed before, and fortunately, my team and I, we come out of this world. We work with these customers quite a bit and spent a lot of time with the defense primes and saw an opportunity to do something different. Went to the venture community, raised a bunch of capital, and did some pretty incredible work. So I'm excited to tell you more about what we do.
Jeff, what are the real world applications on a battlefield of the stuff? Like, connect that with what Eric was talking about with drones, counter drones, the intel, the processing that needs to make that happen.
Yeah, so we would provide a unique capability in like that particular situation where our technology, you can't detect it from the sense of it's not emitting an RF signature. It's not giving up any kind of positional information, but it's giving them a counter UAS capability. So we would
counter drone. UAS is unmanned aerial system, so that's telling you where the drone
is, where it took off from, if there's a controller that's involved, giving you all the information you need to make decisions and cue your countermeasures. And it'd be the same information on a fighter jet, general aviation, stratospheric balloon, or fast-moving projectile. And also would give you the same information on RF emitters that are broadcasting out there. It could be electronic warfare systems, adversarial radars, all different types of any stuff that's broadcasting in our specific RF signature. We're giving our customers the 3D position on where it is so they can decide how they want to use it.
So the product is software?
Hardware and software.
Hardware and software.
Yep.
Okay. So Jeff and Matt Markel's at the end. He's the CTO, Chief Technology Officer at Epirus. I think we have an image of something from Epirus, if we can call that up. But tell us about your company, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for having me here. It's a delight to be at this thing. I've seen some great discussions already. So Epirus is a defense technology startup that builds, wait for it, force fields. But not force fields like in Star Trek or in Star Wars.
Matt, we have your product here, I think. It doesn't have wings or treads.
It's right. So it's what this is we decided that a long time ago, like the company's about 6 years old now, that drones are going to be a big issue. We saw the handwriting on the wall. We didn't know exactly how they were going to play out, but we saw the handwriting on the wall that these are going to be a big issue, something we're going to have to deal with. And we can't take the traditional approaches that we've always taken against them, which is firing something that is very, very expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars against something that's $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. It's just a losing game economically. And so what we decided to do was take a page from a very successful strategy, which is borrow a technology from one field and then apply it to another. So you've seen that with like wheels, very mature technology, right? This is like cavemen, very mature technology, and applying that to luggage, which now everybody's luggage has wheels on it, or cameras, another mature technology, putting that on phones. And now you think of how you can't imagine a day without your iPhone, taking pictures, or I guess Eric, here's like your Pixel or something like that. And what we did was we borrowed from the phased array radar community. So radar's obviously been around a long, long time. And if you look at our system there, that's the one that we have sold to the United States Army. We've sold 4 to them. They look like a radar. And what we borrowed was the fact that these are very scalable. You can see the same, all these very, very different sized things are all built from the same atomic unit. It's like one piece that you can scale up. You want to be able to reach out and touch someone farther away. You add more. You want something that's light and can deal with a little bit shorter range. You add less. So it's very scalable. It's this graceful degradation, and it's software programmable. So we can use all of the AI, all of the software smarts that we've developed here in the United States, in Silicon Valley and other places, to apply to this application. So what we're using it for primarily right now is counter UAS, basically the CUAS mission, and we've sold 4 of those to the Army. We've sold some to the Marines. The Army, I can't say what they've done with them, but they're probably not just keeping them in their backyard to enjoy or put on the shelf or on the mantle. They're trying to figure out good things with them. So anyway, so that's what we're doing. So
how does that thing help take down a drone? Or block a drone?
So we're a high power microwave system. So in the field of directed energy, everybody knows about lasers, right? So everybody's seen Star Trek and Star Wars and lasers. We're high-powered microwave, so lower in frequency, but causes disruption of the electronics, very similar to what you might get with a laser, but in a different fashion. Cause disruption of electronics, and with a drone, if it can't get these precise timing signals between the rotors or the control surfaces and the main computer inside, it doesn't know how to fly. And if it doesn't know how to fly, it can't fly, and then they fall to the ground.
So would you say this is physically defeats a drone?
It's a physical effect in the sense that it will not be able to fly and hit the ground, but it's not a kinetic effect like you would get with a missile.
So, is there a counter to this?
Not that we've really seen so far.
So
we've gotten really great success against every single drone, every single system we've gone up against.
Okay, so this is kind of an asynchronous advantage to whoever has it.
Yes.
Great. Miriam Sarand is in the middle. She's the CEO of NextNav. Your product involves things related to GPS, so why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, thank you, and it's great to be here. Thank you for everyone wearing sneakers on the panel. We did some matching over here, and we are definitely all working on trying to solve really important problems. So at NextNav,
so let's put this image up.
Sure,
And
I'll talk to that in a little bit.
Anybody knows what's going on here, so
that's GPS jamming. NextNav provides a backup and complement to GPS. You heard Eric say we're not ready for the wars of future. One of the things we're not really ready for is the fact that our GPS system is extremely vulnerable. Let's talk about where it's first used. Besides your navigation, it's used in our water supplies, in our power grid, our banks, transportation, and also, of course, you heard him say GPS denied. It's also being used in war by denying it such that you can disable autonomous weapons and things like that. So it's a vulnerability inside the country. It's single-sourced. The reason why it's vulnerable is because it's satellite-based. Satellites are great. GPS is great, sorry I've mentioned, but they're all vulnerable. You know, they're things in the sky that can be taken out. They also are very far from us. So by the time the signals make it to Earth, they become extremely weak, which is what you're seeing right now. That's a jamming map.
So tell us what's going on here. What are the different colors? What do the different colors represent?
So the highest level, which is the red, is where GPS jamming occurs.
And
it's
is that
intentional
Ukraine?
Jamming. Well, Ukraine is that white spot in the middle because they don't put what level of jamming is there. This is the border around that.
So
that area is
jammed in the area beyond Ukraine's border.
Oh, absolutely. Jamming occurs everywhere. It's intentional and unintentional. It's one of the easiest things to jam GPS, and it's really cheap to do it. Sometimes there's unintentional jamming. The trucker on the New Jersey Turnpike ended up jamming you heard about this, yeah, jamming the air traffic control at Newark Airport. Unintentionally, he was trying to cloak his position from his employer. So
So who's doing the jamming here? I mean, one of the combatants.
it could be intentional. This is intentional jamming.
By,
okay?
Do we know by whom?
By adversaries of each other, right? They do it such that they can combat, and these guys can talk to you about their amazing systems that overcome that, but basically they jam it, so they disable autonomous weapon systems. They disable just soldiers finding their locations, being lost, things like that. Oh, there's also spoofing, so it's not just jamming. This is just a jamming bash. Spoofing, people some time ago woke up in the middle of Tel Aviv and their maps showed them to be in the middle of Beirut. Israel intentionally spoofed its own navigation system to avoid adversary action. It crippled their economy. We lose GPS, it's $1.6 billion of economic impact a day. So this is not just, sort of a national security problem, it's also an economic problem. So our enemies are getting smarter, exactly like you said, like Eric said, right? Cheaper, smarter, AI-based, autonomous. They're going to go after a vulnerability that they have overcome. The reason why the Russians, that he said in GPS tonight, can do this, because Russians have built a terrestrial level component that helps with positioning and timing. So has China. We don't have it in the United States. Our solution is a system of systems. We're part of the solution. We're not saying we solve every part of it, but inside of our borders, we bring a terrestrial level signal that doesn't require, and we heard in this conference public-private, and this is where private steps up to help, and there's definitely other funding that's needed, but besides that, terrestrial overcomes the spoofing, this jamming, the satellite birds in the sky vulnerability.
Miriam, what got you interested in being involved with a startup? What said to you there's a crying need for a solution here?
I mean, we got a mission, and I'm passionate about it. I'm sure.
How did you know? How did you know? I mean, is this common knowledge in your field?
I have a telco background. I didn't realize when I started learning about where GPS is used, it was frightening, and our government realizes it, and so basically it's a mission here. And I call the industry. We'd love to partner with folks. I'm going to go talk to these two guys later on. How do we partner? Because one single company can't solve this, right? We can only bring one part to the table. It's a big problem.
So what's the status of your involvement with the U.S. government at this point as a contractor?
So we actually provide commercial solutions right now that provide a Z-axis, so which floor of the building you are on. We need some action by the regulators to provide the horizontal on the XY. That is being used for E911, so it's a public safety response, right? If you want to call 911, they need to know which floor level you're on. That what we provide is being used by Verizon. It's also being used by FirstNet, if any of you are familiar with it's AT&T's network for just public safety responders. Okay, that's what we're doing currently. We actually work with the Department of Transportation. We've gotten funding from them to test and trial. Department of Transportation is responsible for solving this problem per an executive order that President Trump did in called 13905 to solve this problem inside of our borders. DoD is responsible for outside of our borders. The Department of Transportation is also who we work with very closely to be able to be a part of their solution.
So you haven't yet contracted with the military, is that right?
So we're solving an inside border problem, right?
So what's the
outside border is different.
What would the application be in a battlefield situation?
So in a battlefield system, what we do, and let's talk about our solution, we actually take a sliver of a commercial network, which is 5G. You guys have 5G. We take a sliver, it's a signal called PRS, positioning reference signal, and that's how we extract positioning and timing to solve this problem. So this could be done anywhere that has a 5G, or also even a 4G. It's called CRS and 4G, acronyms. You love acronyms, right? So it's just a signal that can be extracted to deliver this, and we put our software on it. So it's a very commercially viable solution, because part of the problem, you'd say, if this is so simple, why hasn't the industry solved it? Is because people have a hard time monetizing off of selling positioning and timing data because you're competing with a free service, GPS. It's a $1 trillion economy, but it's hard to compete because you got a free service. So when you've got a national security problem, you got to get creative around how to solve it without government funding, because that's been also a challenge. There's a lot of great companies out there with great solutions. They do need government funding.
Okay, so you're setting that up as a dual use technology. Jeff, your products are dual use, I think. Matt, are yours dual use?
So we have to think about what dual use really means. So we're probably not going to be selling these to consumers.
I hope
but
not.
That could be fun. But what we really do is critical asset protection, whether that's a military base overseas or a military base potentially here in the United States, or nuclear power grids, power plants, power grids, our financial infrastructure. All those are things that can do huge amounts of damage if those are attacked by something like a drone. So what we see the future of is, like, yes, we're starting with the military, but also the civil aspects of critical asset protection, I think, are a really big, not only need for us, but also from a business standpoint, a large business case for us as well. In the United States, we have to do a couple regulatory things that I think are well in work right now. Fixing some relatively arcane laws that treat a drone that you might buy from Best Buy the same class of airborne platform as a 747. So that just doesn't really pass the sanity check. So we have to fix a couple laws, and we have some folks working hard to help Congress find their way forward in making those changes. But yes, more than just military use, critical asset protection. I see a situation in the world coming down where you could use systems like the technologies Epirus is providing, coupled with sensing systems like Hidden Level and others are providing, to basically provide protection for the Super Bowl or a major soccer event overseas. So those are the things that I see that really put Epirus in the category of dual use technology.
Okay, so let's talk about drones over the skies of America, which you've had.
Yeah.
So tell us the story about everybody, we're on the West Coast, so maybe people don't know as much about this. The story with all the unidentified drones flying around near Newark Airport in the NYC area, and then tell us what happened up in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's actually in New York area. There's a picture, if we can pull up here, of my tech. You can actually see, because we've actively been deployed over the National Capital Region since 2021 as well.
That's it?
Yeah, that's actually one of the sensors. That one's specifically designed to look like a telecommunication device, so you wouldn't know it's
So what does that do?
So that passively detects all the RF emitters that are out, like the truck driver. We actually help the FCC and the FAA identify truck drivers that actively interfere with everything from high-speed trading networks to the airport systems when they park their GPS-jammed trucks next to things, to then giving a complete air picture. So what you see here in Washington, D.C., during the inauguration and prior to that and actively right now as a part of the NORAD, NORTHCOM, and the general surveillance picture for commercial users, we're giving them a full look at everything from low altitude small drones to stratospheric balloons, fighter jets, general aviation.
So does this draw a picture, like we're all familiar with what a radar screen looks like, but this is not radar. Do you get a picture in sort of like that?
So this is actually passive radar. So what that means is, and what's the breakthrough, is all that RF energy that's being broadcast all over the place, we utilize that to illuminate things that are in the sky. That energy bounces off of these small drones and helicopters and allows us to see them as a radar, but we don't transmit a signal. We use other people's energy, which is really unique. And so, long story short, New York, all the things you were hearing about the New England area, the issues that the United States government has is a lot of regulatory hurdles around how to get their technology deployed quickly. So they were struggling to get technology deployed to see what was out there, let alone then once they have their technology, share that data with other stakeholders, which is everything from enterprise, commercial users, state and local. I got a phone call on a Saturday during the Army-Navy game, and they said, look, we know your system's privacy compliance doing amazing things for us. How quickly can you deploy? 24 hours later, we were operational over the whole New England air picture.
Why? Tell us why.
So we could help them identify what was flying.
Because they were concerned about drones and nobody knew what.
Yeah, it was shutting down airspace. They weren't sure what was going on. So within 24 hours, we had the infrastructure expanded down there with a couple installations. You're talking like 4. sensors covering a massive amount of area, and that was integrated in a government network, state and local, and we were giving a complete air picture. Within the first 24 hours, we started apprehending bad actors. One of the ones that was really compelling was a gentleman who decided to fly his drone at night over Stewart Air Force Base, almost collided with a military plane coming in for landing. Our data was going to government, end user, state, and local, and in under 7 minutes, they were at his house and had him arrested. And he's being federally prosecuted along with a lot more than that. I think since we were deployed in that game, there's been over 800 incursions over that airspace alone.
So can you put some of the conspiracy theories to rest and say this is just Yahoos out there acting like fools?
There's a lot of interesting things that fly in the sky. We'll leave it there.
Okay, so one of the things Eric pointed out is the dreadfully long process of defense contracting, and that's not new. Obviously, that's been the case for decades. And yet here we have two startups that are defense contractors, and one that, let's say, probably will become one. That seems to suggest there are openings for ways to move faster. I mean, how do you square the two?
I can jump in here. I mean, we're kind of a wild example of how to accelerate things. For example, we have what's called a program of record. Generally, a program of record, which is a federal line item in the defense budget, takes 8 years or more, sometimes longer, to establish. Our program of record was established in under 2 years.
Why? Why did?
Military relevant technology that went into theater and immediately had an impact.
Does that mean there was like a battlefield need for it?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So we actually had a very unique path to this. We had worked with these customers a lot, sort of knew what we could bring that they didn't have. We were able to develop it on our own dollar, which made it considered commercial off the shelf, which gave them sole source justification. They were able to buy it very quickly and fast. High gross margin, it's an FFP, what they call firm fixed price. We then won what's called an AppFit, which is the acceleration, procurement, and fielding of innovative technologies. This was stood up out of OSD. They give these out to
Office of Secretary of Defense.
Yes. They give these out to the 10 most innovative solutions and technologies in the world. We were one of those companies that gave buying power to the Army. Army bought, took it into theater, immediately had an impact. 2 4-stars signed on what's called a directed requirement, so they created a requirement, and then they used urgent capabilities and made it a program of record. And that happened all under 9 months from winning the AppFit.
So can you, and I'm sure there are sensitivities involved here, but can you in some way say what your product is doing out in the real world?
Yeah, so for that particular end user, it's integrated into 5 different vehicle classes, everything from like ISV to Humvee, different small, but then also tactical formation, so man-portable. And it's providing air surveillance and spectral dominance play, which allows them to do everything from counter-drone to CRAM type missions, everything.
CRAM?
Counter-rocket artillery mortar.
Yeah, I didn't have that one, sorry.
So, yeah, it gives them a very unique capability and it integrated into existing countermeasures, and it's also helping them enable things like what Epirus is providing. So they have solutions like that they want to marry with this. So we made it very flexible and easy for them to integrate, go fast.
So you didn't have to do an end around. There actually was a pathway, sort of a very narrow pathways for specific things that are needed, right?
I've spent 20 years in this industry, so I knew the shortcuts.
How did you? What's your attitude about this process?
Right. So they're very similar. Our government has created these. I don't know if you want to call them an end around, but these other ways of doing things other than the very long ways that we would procure a battleship. So whether those are using organizations like the Army's Rapid Capabilities and Critical Technologies Organization, which is RICTOS, the acronym we use for that. They have a model of buy, try, and then decide. So it allows them to purchase systems and be able to try them, as opposed to just saying like, well, why don't you guys go develop it for a long, long time, and then when it becomes $1 billion program, when we get all through that, then we'll start giving you guys money and starting to procure them. So that's one way that allows you to get revenue in faster, as well as, and this is actually sometimes more important, is getting those operator touch points. So get it in the hands of customers so that they can really provide you the feedback that you need to make it just something that's really optimal for them. There are other things like the mid-tier acquisition, and Eric mentioned OTAs, that's other transactional authorities. Those are other ways that we have to procure things other than the way that we would procure, like I said, a battleship. So, and that's what Epirus is taking advantage of as well, to not taking advantage of in an exploitation standpoint, but taking advantage of so we can get this technology in the hands of the warfighters that really need it.
Miriam, do you feel like you've run into brick walls trying to deal with the Defense Department, or you're just not?
With the regulators? So what's happened for us is that we had to step back and see how to solve this problem economically, right? Funding is hard, these guys will tell you, and it's a long process. And Eric mentioned the same thing. So with us, what happened is that we have spectrum airwaves that you communicate on. They're in 900 megahertz. They're good. They overcome some of the challenges that GPS has getting indoor and also in urban canyons and places. Although I must say in LA, you guys, it's great for GPS. New York, not so great. So what happened with us is we kind of said, okay, we have these airwaves. If we make these airwaves in a way that is suitable for 5G, an AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile would come and deploy this network for 5G purposes, and that's where the monetization comes back. And then we'll take this sliver off of it, because all you need is a signal. This sliver off of that, which is a 5% of the capacity of their network, and we'll deliver the PNT. So this is how we're solving the economic problem. And it's going to be quick to market. The operators add spectrum all the time because it's really expensive to build a network. Imagine you want to compete with GPS. It takes $10 and $20 billion to build a terrestrial network, that every one of us use for cell phones. So we have an ask in front of the regulator, right, which is the Federal Communications Commission, FCC. Chairman Carr was here yesterday and talking about some of the amazing things he's done in his first 100 days. And that ask is, hey, simply let us have rules like power and things like that that make it suitable for 5G to do it. So our hurdle is just timing. It just takes so long to go through this process and get that approval. The rest of it is going to come really quickly, hopefully.
I did some reporting on doomsday preppers, and I went into the woods with them for a weekend to sort of learn what they do. I mean, one of their nightmare, or one of the scenarios they plan for is somebody attacks the GPS system. What's the worst that has happened in terms of the GPS system going down in advanced economies such as the United States?
I mean, look.
I'm thinking to myself, like, the moment that happens, your company's going to take off.
So yeah,
I'm not wishing for it.
The moment that happens, it's too late. We will not be taking up. When it does happen, it will be really, really late for doing this. I hate to do a movie, but there's a Julia Roberts movie, if any of you have watched it. It's out of this world. It actually is about GPS going on. It's actually taking control of autonomous vehicles and crashing them to each other. So if you want to really see some movie, some of it is reality of what would be depicted. So, but you got to fix the roof when the sun is shining, right? The JFK's quote, that you cannot wait for it to happen. And
well,
honestly,
if you've been listening to the commentary about the federal debt, I mean, we are going to fix the roof when it's raining. I mean, I'm not sure we do that anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
When you guys integrate your technology into a military setting, do you have to establish? I've been to all kinds of military settings, and they're like phenomenally complicated. There's just so many different types of vehicles, wires running everywhere and through command posts, and procedures that in some way probably date to World War II for how this is all set up. Is it easy or hard integrating with all of that stuff that's all let's call that legacy equipment? Can you do this on like a standalone basis, or is this a problem?
It's easy if you've been around it forever. It's hard if not. And what that means is, like, we were very fortunate to have grown up in that world. So our tech, we made it MOSA compliant. I can't remember the exact acronym. What does that mean,
you grew up in that world?
I've spent my whole career working in the defense and intelligence community, developing these types of products, et cetera. So we're very familiar with whether it's ATAC, WinTAC, FADC2, all the different, what does that all mean? If you haven't worked in that industry, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So
These are basically military standards.
military standards, different types of systems. Most of compliance means it needs to be interoperable with all of our different systems and existing C2 command and control systems. If you don't have that information and know that, you may build something really incredible, or even like Buy America, or the traceability of all your components to make it easy to integrate into the defense. You may have an incredible product, but if it's not a wartime scenario and it isn't acceptable for them, you could miss out. And that's where it's tough. And I will say the DoD's done a lot to start to educate people in the community that are not working in it regularly, to say, yes, you should work with ATAC, you should work with WinTech. And so people are starting to develop with that in mind, because that will make you very easy and interoperable. If not, it's a nightmare to integrate across all the systems.
Matt, the same?
Similar. We're fortunate to have a lot of people that have been working in the defense industry for a long time. But it's not, once you kind of know the interfaces, it's not like you're trying to tie into some vacuum tube system from the 60s or something like that. We integrate into, our system integrates into multiple different command and control networks. The one that we've used for the United States Army is what their FAD C2 that Jeff mentioned just a second ago. We integrate into that. That provides, we know the format and the protocol of the messages. Those provide the messages to us. We know then where to point our system, and that we can engage the targets. We pass information back to them and so forth. So it's well known by those who know it well, right? So if you've been around it, you'll be able to survive in that sort of a system. Most is modular open system architecture.
Thank you.
So really geek it up here on stage.
Okay, so Eric Schmidt posed this very large, or he addressed this very large problem, which is this sort of mentality of how you do contracting within the government and within the Pentagon. And he's totally right that they design weapons for 25 years from now, I was going to say, you do kind of need some of these big platforms. You need something that flies. You need a lot of them. They have all kinds of different missions. You need something on the sea. But this whole question of does it have to be, humans have to be inside of it. When you guys relate, you're relating, I would say it like at more of a tactical level probably, right? Do you feel like you run into this problem where the thinking is from 25 years ago and it's hard to address what's happening in real time?
I'll start. I'll say no, not so much. But we've flipped the problem around. Like I spend a lot of time, my team and I, going directly to the customer and saying, what are all the things that you were planning to do in 2030 and 2040? They have plans. And give me all of the things that you want, and thank you to the investment community and their level of interest around national security. I say, okay, tell me what you need, and I'll tell you where we can play, and then we go and raise capital around it. For us, we play in the dual-use market, so I don't rely solely on that customer to sustain my business, which is critical for investors to underwrite the investment and continue to put money in. But we go to them rather than say, wait till they get a contract vehicle where they can pay for you to develop on some requirement, and it takes forever. Mm-hmm. Tell me what all the things you want to solve are, and we'll go work on them. Yeah. And then bring them to you. And that's the hard part. This part here, to Eric's point, is they may not have a contract vehicle. But that's where you get creative, and there's OTAs, there's SIBRs. You can get a phase 3 worth $1 billion. We have
these are all contracting
vehicles that are non-traditional. Yeah. The AppFit Awards. We have what's called a Warfighter WILF, Warfighter Innovation Lab funding, which is directly from the combatant commanders, where they can just issue it. So they do have the vehicles. So get smart on those vehicles. Go ask them what are the things they're trying to solve 10, 20 years from now. Go build it, bring it to them, and you can make it work. It is hard, but it's getting better in some respects.
I think Eric was maybe casting too wide a net on some of his comments. Sometimes you need to look out far enough in advance to be able to plan for things. We're still using B-52s today, right? When were those first used? Before I was born. I've been around for a while. Was that
50 might have been the 1950s.
Yeah, so we're pushing 70 years of
Yeah.
that airplane being operational. But if the ones today are not necessarily the same ones, that they had in the 50s. They've been upgraded with different electronic systems, different flight, all sorts of different things that go.
Well, they also do standoff strikes now. They release weapons from hundreds of miles away. They're not going over
Yeah,
the
not carpet
aircraft.
bombing or whatever
Yeah,
from back
yeah.
back at that time frame. So the Vietnam era. So I think that
It's really
yes,
it's like an airborne bus, is what it is.
right, and they're still flying. So sometimes it's good to have that long-term vision, but you need to do that in a way that has the upgradability along the way, so that you're not buying something that's just that you're not provisioning for, so that you can make it something that's still going to be relevant 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. I think one of the things, as we're talking about acquisition and talking about this whole process, in the government, in this whole bureaucracy of stuff, there's a lot of really, really good people, and a lot of actually really bright people too. But there's a lot of inner workings of bureaucracy that just intrinsically slow things down. That multiple organizations need to sign off on something, and what happens with humans is when there's that much bureaucracy on things, there's a lethargy that's kind of built into the system. So things don't move as fast on the government side as they typically do in startups. Startups are like very motivated. You hire the best and the brightest. We're moving at light speed to make things happen. But you don't see that a lot of times on the government side because of just the intrinsic bureaucracy that they have to deal with. Good people trying to do the best that they can with the rules that they have. Now we're getting a lot better. MTAs, OTAs, and these other different contracting vehicles, but it's still a pretty oppressive system.
I should ask this: have any of you encountered the wrath of Doge? Some part of the government that you need to deal with suddenly isn't there anymore.
No, things are
You had any
becoming
problems?
slower, right? I mean, a little bit at some of the agencies if you need it because of the loss of staff potentially for us, but no, we've not caught the wrath of Doge.
We haven't really either yet
Okay,
at this point.
Yeah, not
Okay,
anything
good.
noticeable.
So Eric talked a lot about Ukraine. That's obviously getting a lot of attention. Miriam, you mentioned something that occurred in Israel. But there are innovative things or things bringing new technologies to bear happening all over the world. I didn't know this at the time, but as I've been paying attention to what's happening in Ukraine, apparently there were huge leaps in drone warfare in this war between Armenia and Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh around 2020. That sort of set the stage for some of the things we're seeing in Ukraine. So, what else is going on in the world that has gotten your attention?
I mean, those are center stage from Ukraine, Russia, and what's happening in the Middle East. I think, like Eric said, we got to look at those closely because I think there's a lot going on over there, and so it's pushing things to the edge to be able to learn from it. That's our focus area. That's what we're looking at. But I want to also just chime in on the fact that I do agree that we are losing our edge in technology. We're falling behind in technology. United States. We're falling behind. GPS was our invention, and yet we're falling behind, and we really need to catch up. And whether that's for our military use, for communications networks, or for all of this, it is just not a great thing to see that we invented something, yet we just leave it alone, and then other countries are trying to be more resilient or use it as an attack or things like that.
So give us an example of something you're thinking.
So China has built a nationwide terrestrial level fiber signal backup to its GNSS system, which is called Baidu. We have GPS, they have their own Baidu. So when an adversary does that, then they know your weak point. Because why did they build it? Because they're trying to make sure that they don't get attacked on that level. They know that that's where the weakness is, and we don't have it. That's a really big problem.
That sounds like a big one.
Yeah.
Guys, other hotspots or other interesting things to look at?
Well, India, Pakistan's always exciting, and
Getting more so by the minute.
Yeah, I haven't checked my phone in an hour. I haven't seen what's happened there. So,
So what part of that interests you with regard to Epirus?
Not so much with regard to Epirus, but just with regards to potential conflicts that will pull more people in via proxy to do other bad things that cause loss of life and unnecessary expenditure of resources. That's just unfortunate that this happens, but it's always exciting, and you never know when nuclear capable countries start ratcheting things up, just how it's going to play out. So that's an interesting one. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. That's one that just popped into my head from like what I saw when I checked the news when I got off the plane today.
Neil Ferguson at a different panel said he thinks Trump is going to have to contend with a crisis over Taiwan. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Your favorite hotspots?
they're all over. Whether it's Africa, which a lot of people aren't talking about, but there's a lot of things going on there.
Like, what do you mean?
Deploying more Russian assets in Africa, all different types of. I mean, it's a very interesting theater that most people don't even know about. What's going on in Indo-PACOM, like you said, around Taiwan, but then to me, the biggest one is what's going on in our own backyard here. The unexplained flying projectiles, the disruptions to comms network, things like Havana syndrome, that are unexplained. Lots of different things that. It's interesting how for the U.S. we always had these big oceans that kept us safe, and in a lot of ways with technology and advancement, specifically coming out of these war zones, those huge oceans might as well be small little creeks at this point. You can take a backpack wired up with the right things and disrupt comms infrastructure, shut down SCADA networks, GPS. You wouldn't be able to turn on your water in your house. You wouldn't have power. Your cell phone wouldn't work. To drones being used for everything from stealing IP to weapons. I mean, there's so much that's happening, just even in our own backyard. It's wild.
So we're going to end on a cliffhanger. Unexplained phenomena in America coming next year at Milken 2026. That was terrific, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.